Story 1. A terrifying encounter in the forest on New Year's Eve. It all began on New Year's Eve in 2017. I'm from Ohio, not far from Cleveland. After finishing the semester at the University of Rochester, I had to stay at school for another week due to personal reasons, so unfortunately, I spent Christmas almost alone. The flight went smoothly, but my mood was ruined even before I boarded the plane. I'm a huge fan of the Cleveland Browns, and at that time, they had just completed their last game of the season, finishing with a 0-16 record without a single win. It was a real torment for all the fans. And then, while I was at the airport, my flight got delayed. Everything that was supposed to be a plan for a night with my family was falling apart. My parents decided to leave early and took the main car, while I ended up with the backup vehicle, alone. My mom, trying to make up for this, left me our dog, Vera, a golden retriever. I wasn't thrilled about the solo trip, but the dog always made good company, so I decided to make the best of it. While driving, there wasn't much snow, just a light dusting on the ground. However, it was almost pitch dark, with only my headlights and occasional house lights dotting the path. Suddenly, Vera began to whine and pace around the seat. I realized she needed to go out. I pulled over on a nearby dirt road, but at that moment, I noticed how dark it was around me, as though the darkness itself was swallowing everything. Before I could blink, Vera bolted into the forest. I ran after her, shouting her name, but she disappeared in the blink of an eye. My adrenaline surged, and I sprinted into the forest, hoping to find her, but the darkness was almost total. Eventually, I did find her. She was terrified, walking towards me, trembling with fear. We struggled to get back to the car, but then I heard rustling behind us. We ran, and I barely managed to get Vera into the car when I saw strange figures standing in the forest, watching us closely. I didn't wait a moment longer. I turned the ignition and drove off, not stopping until I noticed Vera was injured. She had a cut on her shoulder, and I almost lost my mind with panic, but I managed to treat the wound, and she began to recover. Story 2. An unwelcome passenger on a snowy road. Another story happened on New Year's Eve when I was driving to my parents' house in Pennsylvania. On the way, a real snowstorm hit. I stopped on the side of the road, and then I saw headlights approaching me from behind. It was a snowplow. The elderly driver offered to give me a lift since my car couldn't handle the conditions. I agreed, hoping it would be safe. But after a while, I started to feel uneasy. He was taking me in the wrong direction, and I noticed there were many suspicious items in his cabin. I grew more and more nervous, and then I realized I might have walked into a trap. At one point, I decided I had to act. When we arrived at a house, I jumped out of the car and ran inside. Luckily, they let me in and called the police. I never found out who that man was, but I'll never trust random rides again. Story 3. A trap on the ice on New Year's Eve. Every New Year, I used to go ice fishing with my friends in Canada. This New Year was no different, but something felt off that time. We arrived at a lake where there usually weren't many people and began preparing. That's when I noticed a strange man just standing there, watching us intently. Soon he ran up to us and started shouting that his friend had fallen through the ice, asking us to help. We rushed to follow him, but the closer we got, the more it became clear something wasn't right. Instead of leading us to the incident, he was guiding us to a more remote part of the lake. And that's when we were met by two other men with weapons. They took everything from us and forced us to walk back into the woods. We never understood why they did that, but fortunately, we were able to call the police and survive this nightmare.